Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another great video here from yours truly. My name is Katana, and I'm here with My Virtual Bookkeeper. And today we're going to talk about some of the best tips for forecasting and goal setting. And so let's get into it. So the first tip that I have for you is separate out the different products, the different services of your business, and treat each one separately in terms of projecting your revenue, right? Think about the goals that you have for the coming year and uh, identify, all right, so if we sell this widget, how many of those widgets would we need to sell at this price in order to hit our financial goals with that product? And in real estate, we do things like, we have listing sides and we have buyer sides. And so very similar, right? I would set your goal. How many buyers am I going to represent? How many sellers do I want to represent? And when I combine those two services or those two products, then do I hit my financial goal in terms of the revenue that I would need to bring in? So that would be tip number one is separate out those things. Tip number two would be take a look at the market conditions as a whole. And this is where I think sometimes people can go down a black hole and looking at the market conditions and they'll assume like, okay, um, if this is happening in the market, this is what has to happen to my business. And I would say I'm not necessarily a proponent of saying that that will happen to your business, yet it is something that you want to consider. We want to be aware of the trajectory of the market. We want to take that into consideration. And the biggest thing that I like asking people around this one is, do we know what's happening? Can we explain what's going on there? Is that normal seasonality? Has there been disruption in some way in your industry? And if we know what it is, then we can plan for it and we can identify, okay, do we have a business strategy to stand out compared to the rest of the industry, so that we can forecast and we can goal set accordingly. That's the biggest thing there. So it's not necessarily that we're taking in the market trajectory and saying this will happen to our revenue. It's really just going through the thought process, going through the exercise of identifying, do we know what's going on there? And have we adopted a strategy that we think will cause us to outpace whatever else is going on in the industry? Tip number three is make sure that you have done the work. You've really analyzed your expenses for the current year. You've thought about what things you're going to be investing in for the next year, and that you feel really good. You've done that sort of month by month and for the year as a whole. And this is where I see a lot of people cut corners, believe it or not. And it's yes, it can be mind numbing, and yes, it can take some time. Uh, Yet it's really worth the work that you put into it, right? If you put the work in on the front end and you make the agreement on what we're going to be investing in for the coming year, then it makes those decisions that much easier when you are in the business in the next year, right? Hey, we said we were going to invest in this thing and now we're doing it, and this is the ramp up time we gave us for that thing. How is that working? It just makes those decisions that much quicker. And then we don't find ourselves having to constantly revisit and re-examine our expenses throughout the year. And I see a lot of time wasted in businesses where we're constantly asking ourselves, well, let's do another analysis of our expenses. Let's do another deep dive into what we're spending money on. We really don't need to spend that much time on it if we put the work in initially, right? If we keep good notes in our initial budgeting process and the items that we had budgeted for, we have detailed breakdowns of, hey, this budget for supplies, that includes XYZ, and these are the things that we're constantly purchasing every month. If we have detailed notes like that, then it just makes everything else in the rest of the year smoother. We can focus on the strategies that we're going to help drive our revenue in the first place. So that is tip number three. Tip number four. All right. So, uh, and this really goes back to projecting our revenue, right? So, what I would say is get clear on what are some of the key metrics that really drive revenue. We talked a little bit about, the different widgets and the number of sales that you would have to do to hit a certain revenue number, and that's really what I would say is lean into some of that, right? So, if we're going to create a strategy on selling more of a certain product or service, then what are some of the lead measures that go into that? Are there certain conversion rates that we would need to see there? And does our strategy address those, right? In other words, can we actually tweak our business in such a way that impacts our revenue, that impacts the bottom line sale of those widgets or of those services? And so if you do that, then it really breaks some of this guesswork around forecasting into a simple exercise of saying, yeah, our team can do that, right? Like we can hold that many appointments or we can have that many sales calls. Um, Instead of just trying to say like, well, we think that our revenue around this widget's going to be this, right? It breaks some of the math down into actionable steps that our team can really get behind and that we can execute on as a strategy. And so there you have it. 4 tips for forecasting as you prepare for really kind of the end of the year. We are just about into September. And so this is a great time of year to be thinking about, hey, what's next year going to look like? What's our business strategy going to be? And so if you have any questions on that, if you need any help at all with your bookkeeping or forecasting, then be sure to reach out to us at myvirtualbookkeeper.com and we will see you all on the next one.